motivate, inspire, educate. Welcome to Ultra Everything.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ultra Everything. I'm your host Thomas Mestis, and today I have the amazing honor and privilege to be able to dive deep and interview a really good friend of mine, business partner of mine, Todd Kruger, local realtor, entrepreneur, father, just all around amazing badass in real estate and everything that we do. So Todd, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate
Thanks
you being
for
here,
having
brother.
me here, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so cool, man. Well, I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, can't wait. Let's get started.
So we've got a lot of questions, and what's funny is our relationship and partnership has been fairly short, but we've done a lot of stuff together in a very short amount of time, and it just makes me think about the amount of time that you've been in the real estate business. You've been in the real estate business now going on 24 years, is that right? Mm-hmm. And I can't even imagine about how much you've actually accomplished in that 24 years, because in just a small window that we've been doing stuff together, it's insane, like what you do. So you were definitely the embodiment of ultra up and ultra everything. So before we kind of get into that, I just kind of wanted to find out a little bit about you and where you were raised and how you came to be in New Mexico.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you for the introduction. Pleasure to be here, and hope I can add some value to the audience and give some nuggets here. So again, 24 years in the real estate investment space. I was born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska. Through junior high, my father was in the banking business. He got transferred, and that's how we found our way to New Mexico. Okay. First stop was Roswell, 10 short months. That was definitely a culture shock from Lincoln, Nebraska. And after 10 months, then we found our way to Rio Rancho. So I finished middle school in Rio Rancho, graduated from Cibola High School a long time ago. Yeah. And started at the University of New Mexico, transferred to Nebraska kind of midway through my college career, and came back here for home base, and really great decision for me. It's been a wonderful spot to be an investor and grow our real estate career. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, love Albuquerque.
That's awesome. So by way of Roswell, that's pretty interesting. So obviously Roswell is pretty well known for having some uniqueness to it. Did you experience any of that when you were there in Roswell, when you were young?
You know what? I was in 7th grade, and coming from Lincoln, Nebraska, where trees, grass, right? Yeah. I mean, no one waters their yard because it rains so much. And then going to Roswell, where it was dirt and rocks and hot, right? And just, I mean, really, it was like you took me out of Lincoln and
you're like, why are we here?
Reposition me to the sun. Yeah.
You know,
what
as a
the
kid,
heck
as a
are we
seventh,
doing, right? So, that was definitely an adjustment period. And so we were there a short time, and then came to Rio Rancho and got our bearings. And I love it here.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. What's funny about them being in Roswell now, going back through there, it's just the whole culture of Roswell. Obviously, everyone that knows Roswell or has heard of Roswell, it's because of the aliens and all that stuff. So as a kid, I would imagine that'd be kind of cool to see all that, but then you're like, okay, this gets old pretty quick.
Yeah. It wasn't near as blown up as it is today.
Sure.
And we were there such a short time, so, but anyways, it does have its mystique.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So you got into Albuquerque, Rio Rancho market, and then you went to and graduated from Cibola High School, so you're a Cougar. Mm-hmm. Cool. And how soon from the transition from high school did you get into real estate? What was the timeline there?
So going back to my high school career, so I was born and raised a golfer, right? I had visions of being a golf professional. That's what I did all through my journey. That's how I got through school, and quickly found out at a high level that I'd work really hard, but I was short in the talent department. Sure. Versus some of my other teammates that are, very, very successful All-Americans, and I realized that wasn't going to be my path. After I graduated college, I went to work for a real estate company for a short period of time, maybe 9 or 10 months, purely on the accounting side. Sure. So I had a little bit of background as far as that's concerned, just through through my internship there. Shortly after that, then I got the entrepreneurial bug. And so I owned 2 sports collectible stores for about 4.5 years in Santa Fe. And really loved doing that. Owned those for a number of years until I sold those. My next stop was I owned a candy factory for 10 months called Senior Murphy Candy Maker out of Santa Fe as well.
Oh, wow.
I was 25 or 6 years old at that time and had more employees than my age. You know, I had 30 plus employees.
Oh, wow.
Never having employees, never having any experience in that area. I quickly found out that that is not my calling.
Sure.
And I was not trained or ready to take that on. And so very short period of time, less than a year, I realized that I need to sell this business. And so I sold it. I had a little bit of money in my pocket. I mean, maybe 50 grand, right?
Yeah.
Very little. And no plans from there. And my best friend still to the day, Brent Fries, who's a local investor here as well, he was in the mortgage business in the early 2000s and introduced me to the idea of foreclosure, right? So he and another buddy of ours had just gone down to the courthouse steps and bought their first foreclosure. I think it was a single wide mobile home.
Yeah.
And fixed it up and sold it, and I don't know, maybe made 20 grand or so. And I didn't have any plans, and he said, you know, maybe we should consider this. Let's buy one. I had nothing else to do. I said, sure, let's do it, right? And this is, you know, and he and I we'd been golfing buddies and teammates throughout, you know, since day one I moved to Rio Rancho, and so we'd always talked about going into business together, and so that's what we did. We bought our first mobile home.
And what year was that, do you think?
That was in 2000, between 2000 and 2001, kind of right in fall, right in there. And so in that transition, since selling my business in Santa Fe, I had then sold my home that my parents had bought for me. I paid them a reduced rate. I mean, they really gave me a step up there, and sold that and had no plans, you know, not knowing, no bearings, not knowing what I was going to do, whether this was really going to be a venture that we could go forward and it'd be supportive. And so for a year, I lived in my Class A camper, an old Class A, by the way, in Bernalillo at the Coronado Campground.
No way. Wow.
I did, and you know, friends and family would come and visit and just kind of shake their head wondering what the heck I'm doing. And so, you know, buying our first mobile home, you know, just we're learning, you know, the education's coming through just going head first and starting it and then just figuring it out along the way.
Yeah.
This is before I had a real estate license. It's before I had any knowledge whatsoever about
You had no idea what you're doing.
investment. Right, exactly. So, you know, we finished that, and then I can remember vividly many days on the couch watching TV or reading or doing something, just waiting for that phone to ring.
That's
right
fun.
For that, hey, I got an offer for you type deal. So
Yeah. I love that.
It's been a journey.
That's so crazy because you fast forward to today, and although it's a distant memory, it just kind of brings you back really quickly. Like, oh wow, like 24 years has gone by like that, from being in a mobile home or travel trailer or like you said, a Class A at a mobile home park, flipping your first property, to we fast forward today, and we're going to get into this, but the stuff that you're doing today is absolutely phenomenal. It's just crazy. But one of the things that I heard you say is you realized in your golf career that maybe you didn't have the talent, but you had the work ethic. And that's so crucial and that's so important, because you may not know what you need to do to accomplish this, but if you put enough work into it, you can get to a level, but then you also have to say, okay, is this my thing? And what you figured out is like that wasn't your thing. And then you went into the candy business and you had 30 plus employees, and you really quickly realized that's not your thing. And coming back to you today, you don't have a lot of employees to run this massive real estate empire that you have, and that's absolutely phenomenal. It leaves me in awe most of the time, because I'm like, wow, that's really cool, like something to aspire to. But so you got the trailer, and you finally got the call. I'm assuming you don't own this trailer anymore, right?
I do not still own it. I wish I did.
Yeah,
because I probably sold it for $75,000. It's probably worth another $100 today.
Yeah.
But no, it sold, and that quickly led to the next, and then realized, hey, we may have a business here. And so that's when, a year later, after doing a few deals, maybe 4 or 5 deals, realized, let's make a go of this. And so
that's awesome.
Bought a home, and here we are.
And here we are, but there's a lot of stuff that's happened in that time frame.
There is.
So you bought your first mobile home. You obviously made some money on it. You did that. You kind of caught the bug, I'm assuming, and you're like, all right, there's something here. I kind of want to hear about some of the stories. So everybody always hears in this world today that we're in, everyone's in that Insta world, right? So we see all the flash, we see the success, we see all that, but that overnight success that took you 24 years to build is what I'm really interested in, and our viewers, I'm sure, are really interested in hearing, is like the process along the way. Because, I mean, how many sleepless nights did you have as this process in the last 24 years? How many nights have you had that phone call in the middle of the night when everything's going wrong and you don't know what to do? And I remember sitting at dinner with you and Lisa, and she was telling me a story of, I guess, a rainstorm or a pipe breaking, and you guys going over, and this is early on in your relationship, and you're a quote unquote real estate investor, and you're like, hey, let's go and shop vac all this water out of this house.
Yeah, and my shop vac was one of those 1 gallon deals, not a 5 gallon, or we were there all night at 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah, that was maybe our second or third date.
That's a way to woo someone.
I was like,
right?
hey, I need help. Hey, we're gonna calling her up saying, hey, we're going to Bernalillo. We had a pipe break. What happened was one of my tenants had moved out, and being the younger real estate investor, I forgot to transfer over the gas, and so in February at this particular year, it was super cold, and the pipe busted, and it was my neighboring tenant who gave me the call and said, there's water coming in under our wall. So there was, to answer your question, there have been many comical stories that aren't so funny in the moment, but that you look back on and wow, that was a valuable lesson, and it's fun to think back and smile about those moments.
Yeah, what did you learn from that moment? It's so funny because, fast forward to today, and all the things and the moves that you make are really lessons, past failures that you had or missteps that really built you to this level that you are today. So, you have to embrace those things. So if you're just starting out in your real estate journey, if you're just starting out, just trying to figure this out, and you're going through the suckiness of it right now, like, I'm telling you, you need to embrace that, because embracing the bad stuff is what gets you to the good stuff ultimately. And that's the funny thing is, like, I've been doing this now for 21 years. And yes, I look back at the mistakes and the failures, but I look at them as, I just laugh at them. It's just like, it's so funny. But at that moment, like you said, you're just like, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to, you're really like distraught sometimes. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to like figure this out. Like, this is really rough. And now you look back, you're like, oh, that was so easy. Like, this is what you do. You do this, this, and this, and this. So that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah,
so.
it's, when I was single and, an aggressive, newbie in the real estate investment space, I would have those times where, maybe I wouldn't have sleepless nights, but I would have concern, right?
Sure.
But really, as I've gained the experience, I've come to determine that there's only a few things that really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And, all those struggles and those speed bumps you have to get over and those hurdles you have to jump, and, it's the journey. The fun is in the journey, and
sure.
It's, valuable times.
So I love to talk about all the bad times, right? I love hearing those stories because it really gives you hope for like what you've got going on and seeing this light at the end of the tunnel. So take me back a little bit, and again, I always bring this up because I always get these really great cue cards and I never follow it. So thank you, Yasmin, for preparing these. Excuse me. So going back a little bit farther, You started Rio Grande Realty and Investments, and how long has that business been in place?
2001 is when we formalized that business, and prior to that, I was just doing the flips out of my name on an individual basis.
Sure.
After doing 3 or 4 of them and really focusing on
excuse me,
generating income and revenue, I realized that paying the commission on every single deal added up.
Sure.
And so maybe my 3rd or 4th investment, then I got my real estate license, and then I hung my license with a friend of a friend, and at that point I think I had to be under him for 6 months or maybe a year, and then
Sure.
I could apply for my qualifying broker's license.
Okay.
And then that's when officially Rio Grande Realty and Investments came to be, and still own and operate that today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's funny because I think a lot of people get into real estate business, and you kind of fall into it a little bit, because my story is real similar. Not in the regards of buying investment property per se right off the bat, but that's kind of what spawned me to get in the real estate business. A good friend of mine, Tom Jones, shout out to Tom Jones, Colliers International. So if you need commercial real estate, call Tom. But I always say the reason I'm in real estate today is because Tom Jones was lazy. And it's kind of, I say that with a joke.
He'll love that.
yeah, he's definitely not lazy at all by any means. But the day that I called him, I still remember, I had seen a piece of vacant land in my neighborhood, and he was in real estate, and I said, hey man, I'm interested in real estate. And we've been friends for a long time at that point. And he shows up, he's like, I'll swing by. So he comes by my house to pick me up to go look at the property, and I remember vividly that day, he was wearing a suit, and his air conditioning in his Suburban had gone out, and he's wearing a full-on jacket, and it's hot as heck outside, right? And I'm like, dude, what are you wearing a suit for? He's like, oh, I had a lunch appointment and I spilled something on me, so he had it covered up. He was covering up his dress shirt. And we go look at the property, and he's super nice, but he was like, dude, you don't need me. He's like, why don't you get your real estate license? And while you're at it, get your qualifying broker's license and then start your own company. And I was like, I can do that? And he's like, yeah, you can do that. And I was like, huh. So the goal's set. And I remember my wife, she comes home, and at that point we were expecting our first child. And so I said, as I was excited, and I was like, hey, I'm getting in the real estate business. Like, I had done zero research. I've already committed though. I'm in the real estate business, so I'm starting my own company. And I tell her, I'm gonna get in the real estate business, and I'm gonna start my own brokerage. I'm gonna get my qualifying broker's license. I don't even know if I knew what that meant at that point.
Sounded good.
It sounded good, and she's like, okay. And I was like, and I'm gonna start my own company. And she looks at me, she's like, oh, I want nothing to do with that, she tells me. And that's how we started. But you just don't know what you don't know, but you get excited about something, and you're like, all right, we can figure this out. Like, everything can be figured out. And that's like, your story is everything can be figured out. You go from sports memorabilia, which I know you're a huge sports fan, so that's definitely a game or a business of passion.
Still
for sure.
love it, yeah,
Still
absolutely, yeah, and have very fond memories of that business. But yeah, there was a transition there.
Yeah, and you go from that to a candy business, which I don't understand the connection, but I'm sure
There was none.
Yeah, you just like candy. Candy's good.
I thought I liked the revenue that spun out of that business, right? So I had my entrepreneurial bug already instilled in me, and so then quickly found out that the burden of that vast number of employees far outweighed any money that I was going to make, and it just didn't make me happy, and so I knew that it wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, I definitely know just by being with you that you're definitely a happy guy, man. I love spending time with you because I just don't see the stress. Like, I don't see the stress, and I'm like, wow, I want to be that. That's what I want right there. That's what I want. But that's awesome. So you go from the candy business, although candy business is good. I mean, Warren Buffett owns See's Candies.
Yeah. Senior Murphy's still around.
Yeah.
It's still thriving.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's good. But the real estate business, you have done so much in a relatively short amount of time. I know a lot of you guys are looking at it like, hey, I want to become rich in the next 12 months. Well, let me just tell you, it takes time. It takes time, it takes work, it takes sacrifice, it takes sleepless nights. Maybe not a lot of sleepless nights, but it takes those. And it takes a lot of stuff. So 24 years in the making has got him to this point where you're doing big things now. And that's what we want to talk about, is like a lot of the big stuff that you're doing. You do have a couple of other companies. You have a company called Express Commissions. Tell me about that a little bit.
Express Commissions is a platform that allows real estate brokers, once they get a property under contract, to get an advance payment on their commission that may not be received for 20, 30, 45 days in the future. They may need that money now or a portion thereof.
Sure.
And so quick application process and fund them a portion of their commission.
I could imagine that business is probably doing pretty well right now, especially the real estate climate that we're in currently. It seems that would be a very good area to be in, what kind of business to be in, for sure.
Yeah, as we've all been a part of it, inventories down just in the last year, and so the frequency of mini brokers closings was a little bit fewer and further in between those closings. Sure. And so hey, life happens to all of us, and there's always surprises that come up, and then on the other side of the real estate transaction, not everything closes on time. Sure. And so if I expect to have a real estate closing today and I get thrown a curveball and I got a 15-day extension, I really needed that money or a portion thereof today to, to solve the problem that I needed to solve. That money was going to help me do so, and so yes, it's a service that it's gained a good following here locally, and I in addition to that, do quite a bit of additional partnerships and money lending, hard lending type stuff. Yeah. And so, it's just really the same model, just another arm of Rio Grande Realty and Investments. That's kind of being a full service, just different things that we focus on as we've grown over the years.
Kind of going back to the Express Commissions and why that's important. So many of our viewers, if you're thinking about getting into the real estate business or being a real estate broker, it's not like a regular job where you work a week and you get a paycheck next week. You could work 6 months when you're brand new, 7 months, 8 months, 12 months, and not get a paycheck. And really the service that Todd has with Express Commissions gives the ability to be able to say, hey, I just got this deal under contract. I can pull a portion of that out kind of as an advance so I can still pay my mortgage, put food on the family's table, do all these things. So as far as the service goes, that's an amazing service for a lot of people. It gives the options. So if you are thinking about that, or you don't have all the closings that you want right now and you need to get to the next one, great opportunity to reach out to Todd for Express Commissions and their company, because you guys rolled this out nationally as well, right?
We did in the last year, with some of our
that's pretty awesome.
Strategic partners, yes. Yeah. So
that's pretty cool. So that's one pillar in the estate of Todd here. But the other thing is you've been doing fix and flips. That's kind of your bread and butter, right? And although we're going to get into some really cool stuff that he's doing in addition to, I think fix and flips is amazing, because what it does is it really beautifies neighborhoods. It elevates the area. It does all these things, and it gives you an opportunity to make an investment in real estate and then benefit for the increase in values and all that stuff. So, which is pretty cool. So how many houses have you flipped since you started? Do you have a number?
I'm getting close to 1,800.
1,800 houses.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so the majority of those are the traditional fix and flip, like you had mentioned. And then I quickly learned, 20 plus years ago, that I didn't want to build a company that was required by having a large staff.
Okay.
Now since I've learned, you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go big, you go with others. And so I've pivoted over the last 4 or 5 years really to, which has been a wonderful transition, because it's grown our business and our partnerships. And so I realized that growing strategically with others that are doing what I'm doing and that provide one another value, right? And so that number can continue to grow. So I don't do as many as I once did, and I really don't want to any longer.
Sure.
I love what I'm doing. I love the crews that we've got. We put out a okay product that serves the need of people shopping for homes in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho and in our marketplace. it is what I do. It's not who I am.
Sure.
But it has provided me, it has blessed me enormously so that I can branch out Rio Grande into different types of businesses, and I realized that I didn't want to just be as good as my last fix and flip, and so as you know, that ordinary transactional type of a business is also highly taxed, and so if I do, back in the day when I would do 70 plus flips a year, you can make a very good income on that. Well, the result is you're also paying a very high tax on that income. And so about 5 years ago, I realized that now being married, now having a wonderful, almost 11-year-old, I had additional responsibilities that I didn't once have, right, when I started all of this. And if, God forbid, anything ever negative happened to me or my health or an accident of some sort, I would only have been as good as my last fix and flip. And so I realized that I needed to have some stability in my business. And so instead of solely focusing on a fix and flip model, I began to branch out. And so first off, I needed to get some passive income. And so I started investing in apartments, in multifamily. I was never big on rentals throughout my career. I didn't like the idea of being a landlord. I cringed about the phone calls. I didn't want...
Well, it sounds like you had the water shut off, or the heat shut off and the water leaks in one of your first ones.
Everything happens at 5 o'clock on Friday, right? Nothing happens at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And, if you don't third-party property manage, if you're doing it yourself, which I was in the beginning, it's a big responsibility. And so as I continued to acquire multifamily, I realized, I need strategic partners, either in the management space, in the value add space, and as a result, getting in good transactions, getting that value add opportunity creates passive residual income. And so, I just primarily focused on the multifamily sector at that time, 5 years ago, and would get in as many good deals as I was able to, right? So it's continued to grow over the years. I haven't bought a multifamily facility in the last year or so. Kicked a couple of them around. They just didn't, through stress testing and pro formas, didn't pull the trigger on any of them. But I continue to look at them, but that is not my focus today.
Can you tell us how many doors you have currently?
Between 12 and 1,300.
12 and 1,300. Wow. All over the country.
All over the country. Okay. Now, I only own a small handful of those 100% by myself.
Okay.
I realize that I cannot do this myself, and so I like to have a lot of units and pieces of those units. And so, similar to the property that you and I own here in Albuquerque together, as you know, we all own parts of that. And so that's what I've done throughout opportunities that have come my way in the last 4 or 5 years through, just friends that I've followed on the social media platforms, and then got to know them either at events, reached out to them, had phone calls and opportunities present themselves, and that was the way that I was able to scale, right? Because I couldn't scale by myself. Team of one doesn't scale very well. So
what's pretty interesting about that, and it's kind of funny, is a lot of times people are afraid to reach out. They see something and somebody's asking a question and you're like, I really want to do this. And you just don't do it. You just don't pull the trigger. You just don't commit. And I remember it was in December of 2021, I believe, and I had posted a 30-second story about this property that we're in the process of buying. We're under contract and we're in this process of buying this property. And I basically said, if anyone's interested in this type of investment or property, reach out to me. Todd sees my video, reaches out. Hey, Tom, I'm interested. I'm like, okay. And we fast forward today, and we're partners, and we've partnered on a lot of other properties and projects since then. And it's crazy. It's like thin threads. It's just you just got to reach out to people, and I think you have to make that commitment and not be afraid to ask the question or just to try. And I think, for anyone that's young, that's just starting out, or anyone that's old and just starting out, is just ask the question. Like, how can I help? How can I commit to something? How can I, pick me, coach? Like, I'm up. Like, just give me an opportunity, give me a chance. And I think that's the number one thing that in business, that you just have to just be willing to start somewhere. Everything has a beginning, and you have to begin somewhere, right? Yeah. So that's a huge part of it. And I love that you reached out, because that has started not only a great friendship, but an amazing businesses that we've grown together. We've gone on some amazing trips together. We've spent some really great times in some really cool places, and I love that. That's really cool, because you can build a business with friends that you didn't even have at that point, and some of your best friends become from part of this whole system. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's some of what I appreciate at the highest level. There's nothing better than being successful with those that you want to hang out with and friends, right? Sure. I mean, if you look back in the last now 2 years that we've owned that complex, and the tremendous equity that we've gained on just that single investment.
Yeah.
Timing is everything. I wish we would have bought more 2 years ago,
sure,
right?
Of course.
At that dollar instead of today's dollar.
Sure.
And but it's a journey, right? I mean, wealth and growth, and it is a journey. It is not it's not a quick twitch. It doesn't happen overnight, right? It's slow and steady. Now, there's investments that are quicker than others, but by and large, the wealth has grown over a period of time by making good decisions and being partnered with good partners, right?
Yeah, and I think not only having good partners, but having that work-life balance and having a very strong family bond is so helpful. I know that you and Lisa have been together for a long time, and that's absolutely amazing. So how many years have you guys been married now?
Going on 13.
13 years.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny, because you look back and you're like, wow, how could I have done all this without you?
Yeah.
Right? Like, Nikki and I have been together, we're going on 27 years this year. And that's a long time.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That is amazing.
And, I couldn't have done anything that I've done without her support. They see all the bad stuff though too. So they give you some pretty darn good advice when you're looking at something and you're questioning something. They're like, they see it, and they know what the effects are going to be if you undertake that project or whatever, because it's going to affect them. So they're usually quick to give you some pretty good advice. Most of the time.
They definitely are our sounding boards, and you're right. They see the ups, they see the downs, they see the late nights, they see the getting up early, and here's what you got to do to get the deal done today. And my wife is amazing. She's came from a CPA background. She has her MBA. When we met, she had a big girl job. She was a CFO for a just under $30 million company here locally.
Oh, wow.
She was a CFO for the United Way of Central New Mexico. And so, much smarter than you and I put together. And so what a wonderful strategic partner to have in my corner. And so now she runs another company of ours, as the CFO and doing financials, and the peace of mind that comes with that, knowing that things are so well done, and takes a lot of pride and a lot of hard work in it, and she's exceptional. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it doesn't. I'm going to just tell everybody out there, not having. And Yasmin can actually speak of this all the time, because she's always correcting stuff that I put out there. She's like, Tom, you really need to have me proofread stuff before you put it out there, before you put this post out there. And I always tell her, I said, hey, I'm the first to admit, I'm not the smartest person in all areas, but the areas that I'm good at, I'm really good at those areas. Yeah. And it's like, I think over time you find out where you're really good, and you just focus on those, because the rest of it, like And I don't even, it doesn't even bother me. Like if I put something out, I'm like, well, I put it out. Like I could have either waited for it to be perfect, or I could put it out there and let's see what happens.
Yep.
And I think that's the one thing is, and especially being an entrepreneur, is not being afraid to go ahead and put it out there. You got to go put yourself out there. You got to put yourself out there. You got to put the idea out there. You've got to just go out there and see who in this world will help you to help you realize your goal.
Yeah. And then the flip side of that is, perfection is the enemy. If you're working in whatever it is that one is focused on and you're trying to be perfect at anything, you're not going to go anywhere very quickly.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing having to do with being an investor, being an entrepreneur, about real estate, about life, fill in whatever you want to focus on. There's nothing that's perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And so, we all need to learn that, and we need to remind ourselves of that from time to time. And, if you're really good at one or two things and then can get the support and partners or friends around you that can fill in those voids that you're not quite so exceptional at, you can really grow a business.
So one of the things that I'm kind of known for is I always say commit first, figure out later.
Yep.
And I've never been one to just kind of test the waters. It's like, let's just go for it, and then we'll figure it out. And you're like, oh, geez. But I heard an interview with Jesse Itzler, and I don't know if you guys know who Jesse Itzler, but if you don't, look him up. He's absolutely amazing. But one of the things that he said early on, he's like, I don't have enough time to figure out everything, so I'm just going to commit to it, and then I'm going to figure through this process. Yeah. I'm going to go through it, and we're going to figure it out together. And I love that because that's so true. It's like as an entrepreneur, you can wait around and think about all the things that you could do, and then ultimately talk yourself out and do nothing, or you can commit to it, figure it out. Now you've made a commitment, so now it's either like you got to sink or swim. So you got to go for it, and that is definitely the ultra everything mindset for sure.
A quote from Jesse that I remember, and I've had the pleasure to see him speak, and what a great story. But yeah, I remember him vividly one day saying that, I hate experience because it takes too long.
I hate experience because it takes too long.
It just takes too long. I'm not patient.
Yeah.
And he's a great example of that.
Yeah. So you went from multifamily okay, I don't want to be a landlord, to now I'm a major landlord, but obviously you put systems in place so you don't have to deal with it, to storage facilities where you're a landlord, but you're not a landlord, you're an owner. What's that all about? And I love this story because you kind of fell into that too, right? So in Podunk, Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the International District, bought your first storage facility for under $300,000 or some crazy number?
Actually, our first one was in Alamogordo, New Mexico, that we still own.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So really funny transition and all that, which is just over 4 years ago now. I still was in the multifamily growth phase, and having owned one storage facility 10 years previous, I just flipped it.
Yeah.
Fix and flip just like a single family. I did it with storage, made a little bit of money, moved on, never having the interest to own and operate it. Still focusing on multifamily, I would look at every online avenue where things were advertised. This particular facility was an 11-unit here in Albuquerque in a challenging neighborhood, and I had found it on Craigslist. I got in touch with the owner. They wanted, $650,000 for this unit, for this property. And so I made an offer on it. That same day, I had someone call me out of the blue who I'd never met before in my life through the Bigger Pockets broadcast and forum that I'm a member of. This guy was looking in Albuquerque for whatever reason and saw this facility and looked me up because I was listed as an investor in Albuquerque, and just called me out of the blue and said, "Hey Todd, you don't know me. I live in California. Would you mind driving by this place for me? I want to make an offer on it, and I need some boots on the ground." And I'm always eager to help those out along in their journey. And I said, sure. Tell me about the facility. Well, I found it on, this is his story. I found it on Craigslist. Here it is, it's 11 unit. Here's the address. And then, I was like, you're never going to believe this, but I made an offer on this facility this morning, on this property this morning. He's like, are you kidding me? So then we, after 20 minutes conversation, I said, look, here's what we can do. And so here's what I offered. What'd you offer? And he had offered $50,000 or $70,000 more than I did. And I said, first of all, it's not worth that, right? I know the neighborhood. I know and I've done the pro forma. I know what the rents are. I know what the expenses are. It's not worth that, but it's worth what I offered it. I said, so if you hear me out, here's what I'm going to propose. And so I just made him a proposal. I said, rescind on your offer, makes mine look really good. Yeah. And then if you'd like, you and I can partner on this deal. I had never met this guy.
Yeah.
So we got it under contract. We closed. I went and got traditional financing. Come to find out that my new partner had never been in the real estate business in his life. He was a starving actor, wrote a screenplay, and now we own this 11 unit in Albuquerque that he had never seen. So I did a small value add, new roof, new stucco, new things that it needed. So we owned that for a short period of time. And through that journey, I had also owned I think a 52 unit in Alamogordo, New Mexico. So simultaneously, we get a call from a lender in Alamogordo, researching and finding who the owner was on the facility that I owned, and reached out to us and said, hey, I've got this REO, real estate owned asset from the bank, and we're looking to unload it. Do you have any interest at all in buying it? It's like, shoot, been to Alamogordo twice in my life, right? Yeah. I said, okay, well, let's go take a look at it. So we go look at it, and it was a 60,000 square foot furniture showroom that had gone out of business. The owner that got foreclosed on had bought it from the furniture company and began to do a self-storage facility in the middle of the facility and hoping that he would grow it and build it out. I believe he had some health issues, had to give the property back. Now the bank was calling, just trying to unload it.
Sure.
They were looking for $650,000 on the asset, and I was like, all right, well, let's make him an offer. So I think we offered $325,000, 50 cents on the dollar, and their board came back and said, we know that you're our buyer. Can you sweeten your offer a little bit? So I came up $5,000, and they accepted it.
Wow.
So we bought it for $330,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was, I met this guy on Craigslist. We bought an 11 unit here. Now in his journey, he's looking in Alamogordo because he understands that I own a multifamily there. He's looking all over. He just wants to buy stuff, thinking, hey, I found a good partner. And so that was our first storage facility that we had bought together. Fast forward 4 years now, our portfolio got up to 8 units. In the last 6 months, we've sold 5 of them. We've bought a couple more. We've got another one under contract in El Paso we're closing on. And so now we've really created a new business that we own and operate storage facilities, both climate control as well as the traditional drive-up facility. Yeah.
Now, what's the style of unit? Because now you went from, you're not even looking at 11 units anymore. You're looking at, what's the minimum that you're looking at?
I'll buy a smaller facility if the numbers are right. A smaller multifamily property if the numbers are right. In storage, it's much the same. I don't want a smaller facility, because if you got a small facility that has 200 units in it, or a smaller multifamily that has, say, 20 units in it, it's just as hard to do a multifamily with 100 units as it is a 20 unit. Same in storage. I can do a 500 unit facility just as good as I can a 100 unit facility. And so, I'm looking for larger storage facilities, kind of 50,000 square feet and up. The one we're buying in El Paso is just under that, but the goal is, we're doing the same thing that I've done in single family and multifamily, right? We're buying everything with a value add component in it. So I know what I'm buying at, but I'm not ever buying at the top of the market, right?
Sure.
I'm buying with equity built in. Now I just got to go and get it.
Sure.
Most of the stuff is cosmetic in all sectors, in single family, multifamily, storage. They're cosmetic changes that we can make to really push value.
So, not to kind of go into to great detail about the numbers, but you just exited one in California, I believe. What would that equate to on flips? Like, what would the exit versus the acquisition equate to on a flip? Like, how many flips would you have to do to
a lot?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So, the deal that we sold in mid-November in California, they were two property addresses, about 45 minutes away from one another in the Fresno area, so kind of central California. We run a robust off-market campaign to search for these storage facilities, similar to like what we do in single family as well. But we're
Sure.
buying stuff that's off-market that are, we're going directly to a seller,
Yeah.
right? That reduces competition, right? And
Sure.
these are don't wanters for one reason or another. The situation in California, the younger gentleman that was the owner, he was maybe 30 years old. He inherited both facilities. His father had passed away some years ago and had been very poorly managing both facilities for the last 8 or 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said, here's my number, are you interested? And so we closed on that facility, and that was a large value add.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of heavy lifting there there were weeds that were taller than the garage door. Like,
Sure.
it looked abandoned. It looked
Yeah.
like a ghost village.
Yeah.
Like this is not an operating business, but it actually was. There were a lot of people that had their contents in there, but no one was paying.
Okay.
And so, on that, we got traditional financing. So I had to put, I think, 25% down.
Okay.
Got a traditional loan, and spent the year really, a lot of trash runs, a lot of paint, kicking people out, a lot of new doors, gates operate, and so until we could turn it around to, now we're on the journey to stabilize it. And so, from the day we bought it, I would get people to call me to say, hey, are you interested in selling? Are you interested in selling? It's hard to find 100,000 square feet in California.
Sure.
And so these two facilities, they had a lot of square footage. And so then I got to the point where I'd, make me an offer, right? Instead of just saying, no, thanks, I'm not interested, I would get 3 phone calls a week nonstop by people with cash in their pocket looking to buy my facilities.
Yeah.
So I had this crazy number in my head, and I said, if anyone ever gets to this number, I think we're a seller.
Yeah.
And so we closed on that facility in August of 2022, and then on our purchase, and then we closed our sale November 14 of 2023. So, just over a year.
Yeah.
And that was an exceptional deal, and I would have had to have done a lot of flips.
A lot of
flips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
so cool. Love hearing those stories. But that would have never happened if you wouldn't have taken the call and said, hey, I'll go drive by this, and be willing to help other people. So I think that's the key takeaway is if you want to be successful in anything, you have to work and you have to be a servant to other people. You have to serve other people, take yourself out of it, and just say, hey, how can I help you? And that's really what it kind of led from this to this to this to this, ultimately led. And in a very short amount of time, it's just, that's awesome. And today you guys are building this empire. And I know the last time I spoke to you guys, you were talking about some crazy number that you had in your head that you wanted to build that portfolio up to. Can you talk a little bit about what that number was? Has that changed since then?
It has changed a little bit. Growing our portfolio, we realized once we got to 8 facilities and about, I don't know, I want to say somewhere around 3,000 units. It really was, it took a lot of time. Operations, and no matter what you do, are tough.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Dealing with people. Now I've got 3,000 customers that, now granted, I have operations managers, and some facilities I have people that are on site, so I'm not dealing with the day-to-day stuff, but my wife is instrumental in running those businesses from a financial side of things, from monthly reporting to, payroll to accounting to year-end stuff. And so after we got to 8 units, I realized that was kind of my threshold for the team that I had. I'm not interested in growing that team. I am a flipper at heart, and so what do? I sell stuff.
Sure.
Now we're down to 4 facilities. We've sold 5. We bought 1. We've got another one under contract. We want to grow it back up, which we will with the right deals.
Sure.
But rather than having hey, I want my portfolio to have this valuation, or I want to make this much passive income a month. Instead, it's really a function of wants instead of need. We don't have the same goals, maybe from a monetary side of things, more so as a fulfillment and a happiness scale.
Sure.
And so, I don't want my wife to have a job. I don't want a job. I have enough of them. And so rather than, the answer or the solution to that may be, okay, hire a bookkeeper, hire an accountant, to do that instead of my wife. They're not going to do it near as good. They're still going to be, I'm still going to have to talk to these people, right?
Sure.
I'm still going to have to nurture them. You can hire exceptional people, but they're only as good as the time that you spend with them and the direction that you give them.
Yeah.
And not wanting to do that, not wanting to grow in that area, I think that something 8 units or under in the storage world is just enough for me, and I don't need to own 20 or 30 facilities. I don't want to.
But that's the great thing is you're doing what you want, and I think that's the key takeaway is you can build that business as big as you want, and at this point, in a relatively short amount of time, because I remember you giving me a huge number initially, because you're like, hey, this is where we want to grow this to. Mm-hmm. Can we share do you remember what that number you gave me was? That big number?
I don't remember. What was it?
It was some crazy. It was like $70 million in storage facility holdings, which at that time you were 2 years, 3 years into the deal, and you're like, within this year, this is going to be a reality, and it's just a crazy number. But I think what's cool about it is you realized, I'm building my life by design. I'm building it the way I want, and when it's not going the way I want, I can sell. And it's kind of funny because what I've learned a lot from you is I think early on in this business, you buy real estate and you hold it. And sometimes it's nice to say that you have X amount of properties. Mm-hmm. But the reality is are you spending more time doing them? Are you spending, what is it doing, taking away from your family when you get a phone call at 10 o'clock at night and I got to go handle this crap right now, or I got to go do this, or I got to do that. And so one of the things that I've learned really well from you is ask the question. It's does it meet these standards? Do I want to hold on to it? Does it meet my goal in my life? It's nice to have it, but what's important is to maybe just sell it and then really focus on excellence and simplification. So my words this year, I have 2 words that I'm working to live by, is excellence. If it doesn't meet that litmus test of being excellent, whether it's food, relationships, business, or any of that stuff, then why am I doing it? And the other thing is how can we simplify? How can we still add things that we want to do, but also simplify at the same time. It's like it's this really weird dynamic to try to get to. But if you can try to live your life that way, and I think you embody that, because I've seen how you live, I've seen what you do, I've seen your thought process, but it's also simple. So it's like excellence and simplify. And I was like, it's definitely something that you can aspire to and work towards and actually achieve. And I think that's one of the things that seems that you've figured it out for sure.
Each of us only has so much bandwidth.
Yeah.
Right? We only have so much capacity. You amaze me every time I turn around. Okay, I've got this podcast now. You want to come be a guest? Hey, I'm doing this. Like, your cup flowed over, man. I mean, you don't stop. I'm a little bit more reserved. I realize that I don't have an infinite bandwidth, right?
Sure.
And that everything that comes my way that I say yes to, as a result, somewhere down the road, I'm going to say no to something that I don't have the opportunity to do yet. And so I always have, it's really important to me, and it keeps me happy too, right? I get overwhelmed easy, and sometimes I just say enough's enough, right?
Yeah.
And then it hurts my mood, it hurts my relationships, and I'm not as great of a father as I want to be. And so I really try and pick and choose strategically what I do and why to get the highest yield and the lowest aggravation in everything that I decide.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be really aggravation heavy, it better be super profitable.
Yeah,
right? It's got to be, because I'm doing that. It may not be a monetary cost, but it's costing me something, right?
Yeah.
It may not be out of my pocket in the form of money, but it may be, most important, as we all know, is time, right? In addition to that, it's energy and, quality and, there's things that we all like to do, and we don't want to be working all day, every day to enjoy them.
Sure, absolutely.
Defeats the purpose.
I love that, and that's why I love calling you my mentor, because, sometimes just you jokingly will ask me a question, like I'll post something, and you're like, and I was buying a vehicle or a van or something for the office one day, and you had posted, you're like, is that really what you should be buying right now? And I was like, huh. And you were like, I come back to it, and you're like, I was just kind of joking with you, man. But I was like, no, but it made me stop and think, like, do I need to be doing this right now? And it made me kind of take that pause for that moment, check myself, and say, you know what? I don't. So I actually said no to that. And it was probably one of the best decisions in that arena that I needed to make at that moment in time. So although you might have been joking, I don't necessarily think that you joke intentionally just to like razz somebody. Like, that joke had some meaning to it. You're like, oh, I don't know if that's the best thing for you to do right now, Thomas, And you might have said, hey, I was just kind of joking with you, but it meant a lot, because it actually guided me to say no to something, which is good. And then I always have that Todd test, like, do I want to keep this? Do I want to do that? Or when I look at something, it's like, yeah, we could do that, but wouldn't it be easier to do this, this, and this? And we could still, see just a different way of thinking about things. And I think that's super important to be able to elevate your game. And it's not always about doing more. Like, sometimes they say less is more. You can do less and make more and do more just the same way, where you're scaling and saying, hey, I could do 100 flips this year or more, or I could do one really good storage facility. What do you want to do? Storage, right? One really good storage facility.
Right, you only got to do it once. You don't have to do it 100.
You don't have to do 100. Yeah. So that saved you, but it still gave you the time to go do 50 flips if that's what you wanted to do. So you could still ultra up, take it up, but now you're pulling back and you're really thinking about it. So you're really being more methodical, and it's a game of chess, right? It's really you're figuring things out. What's the best move for me to make with the time, energy, and money that I have, and for the maximum effort or the maximum potential. And I think that's really the greatest takeaway that we get today, because in 24 years, what you've created is absolutely phenomenal, and you should be super proud of yourself for doing that, because it's a lot, man. It's awesome. So
thank you. We've you and I have had the wonderful pleasure of meeting some really high level professionals, and something that I've really learned in the last couple of years that I have adopted is the velocity of everything. And not having just the flipping mentality and buy something and sell it. I transitioned to, okay, hey, I'm going to hold things longer. I'm going to get a lot of passive residual stuff. It's going to give me stability. But then, I've also pulled back a little bit saying, in some of these facilities, performing great, right? They're all businesses by themselves.
Yeah.
And they spin off a nice amount of cash flow. But then when you look at and you compare that to equity that you have in a particular deal, then, and by a sale, now you've got that equity to go redeploy that should be making more than that given facility is actually spinning off monthly. And so, that's really been behind my decision to sell the facilities that we have. And the ones that we've decided not to sell that we still retain, it's because the yield is so high.
Yeah. And some of the things that I've learned in a very short amount of time from you is, like on the investment side, on the long term, through your retirement accounts and the relationships, and that's what you were saying is you level up, you go to the next level, but you start meeting people that are doing things differently, sharing their tips and tricks, and I think that's really what's important about this podcast is that you can reach out to anybody that we've had as guests and they're going to be willing to give you the information. There's no secret, but the secret comes back to you is like, what are you willing to do with that information that you have? Like, the information's available. Are you going to put the work and time in order to make it successful for yourself? But one of the things I wanted to kind of shout out to Greg Herline is with Horizon Trust. What a tremendous service that they offer. Now, you're talking about, you don't want to be as good as your last flip, and you want, long-term wealth, and you want to build stability for your family. One of the ways that I know that you've been doing it, and I've seen it firsthand, is really focusing on growing your retirement accounts that, God forbid something happens to you or you're no longer here, those are able to be passed on to your family. But one of the cool things is through the Roth IRA where you can actually build that wealth tax-free. And that's pretty cool.
So I started my original self-directed 401k some 20 plus years ago, and believe me, it was a very small number in the beginning, and year after year doing some deposits, and it grew to the point to where I could actually buy a house, do my same fix and flip. All the profits would go back in that self-directed, and then pretty soon then I was able to buy 2, then I was able to buy 3. I did an analysis in 2023 year end, and I had done nearly 70% of my flips, I think it was 68%, in 2023 were in my self-directed accounts.
Wow.
So again, getting back to no one enjoys paying taxes, right?
No
one.
Nobody.
So because the fix and flip business is so transactional, it's taxed as ordinary income. And so if you make a very good number annually, that tax rate is high. The great tool in having a self-directed 401k or a Roth is that they are either the 401k is tax deferred until you take a withdrawal of age, or even better is the Roth goes in after tax and it's never taxed when you withdraw it. So only having a self-directed 401k, about a year ago, after some great advice by Greg, our mutual friend, he said what you need to do is open a Roth and then start to transition some of that money into your Roth. Now that's a taxable event, and don't want to get too technical here.
Sure.
It's a taxable event, but if you use some other commercial real estate tax strategies called bonus depreciation, you can actually do that to offset that depreciation. And it's still taxable, but with the depreciation you have a credit, and basically you can offset that burden.
Yeah.
And so doing that in the last year, that is my focus. So that every new storage facility I buy, I immediately do a cost segregation study. I get the bonus depreciation, and then my goal is, whatever that number is, then I transfer that money into a Roth that, when I'm sitting on a beach watching the sun go down and take a withdrawal, that's 100% in my pocket.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about it. And just for like numbers' sakes, I think you can actually grow your Roth by $10 million annually, some crazy number like that.
That's the max.
That's the max.
I'm not there.
But the cool thing about it is when you're 59 and a half, you can actually withdraw all the money in the Roth completely tax-free if you wanted to. So you could clear out that account. Let's just say you had $100 million in there, no tax. Is that correct? That's what I understand.
I do not know that rule.
That's what I understand. So, but obviously, if that's something, we're getting into more depth here. But this is the plug for Greg. Reach out to Greg. They got a great company, Horizon Trust. They can actually guide you through all that process. It's absolutely amazing. But that's just one tip and trick. So we're gonna kind of end it here. We actually have a game that we want to play. Are we ready for that game? We are. All right. So the rules of the game. We're gonna put up on the screen 10 Albuquerque local locations, and in order for you to win, you have to get 8 out of the 10 out.
Oh,
so you got to name these places that are up on the screen, and we got the screen over here, so you can look this way if you want. So that is a very famous Albuquerque location, and I'll give you a tip if you want it.
I'm gonna need it, and I'm gonna need your glasses.
Well, if you need to see this screen,
I don't know where this is.
It's across the street from the university.
Frontier.
Perfect. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, there you go. Frontier Restaurant. All right, the next one. What do we got here?
Oh, our tram.
The tram. You got another one. Look at that. All right, good job. Let's get photo number 3.
That is Old Town.
Old Town Plaza. There you go. Good job. 3 for 3.
That is. It's not Tingley Beach? When
Nope.
it used to have grass?
Nope. UNM Duck Pond.
Okay.
All right. All right, the next one.
One of the Three Sisters. Volcano on the west side.
The volcanoes or
Yeah,
the petroglyphs?
petroglyph,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Good. You got it. All right, the next one.
Oh, the doghouse. Yeah, this is
I
famous.
like how you blanked that out. That's pretty funny.
Couldn't tell.
Couldn't tell. Should have blanked out the dog.
I've never had a hot dog there. Have you?
I've had it one time actually, and everybody just raves about it and they love it. But I can't say it was great or bad. Like it just whatever the moment in time. But I'm gonna have to try it. We'll have to go have lunch one of these days.
Iconic spot.
Now that we brought it up, we're gonna have to go have lunch over there. All right, the doghouse. The next one.
That, I believe,
is your last flip.
Yeah. Is that on the path up to the tram? Yeah.
Yeah.
The old, what was that? I'm familiar with the building, but I don't know what they call
cabin?
it. Okay.
Stonehouse, San Diego? Yeah. Okay. There you go. Ooh, this is popular. This was in Breaking Bad, right?
This is the restaurant,
location.
not the Standard Diner. This is
one of the locations.
We're not too far away from it.
We're not too far away from it.
What's the name of it?
The Grove.
Okay.
Yeah. That was in Breaking Bad.
Tip of my tongue, yeah.
So all you
Mini
Breaking
lunches.
Bad fans out there, go have lunch at the Grove. All right, the next one.
I don't know what that is.
This is really close to us as well.
Train station?
It's in the Borellis neighborhood.
What is it? Oh, the coffee house.
Yeah, the Borellis
Yeah.
Coffee House. Yeah.
Somewhere else I've never been.
You haven't been there?
Mm-mm.
Oh, man. It's good stuff. Yeah, it is really good, actually. I like that. I like that they've got the most amazing chicharrones, if you like deep fried fat.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't,
Oh,
right?
the Central Grill. So
Central
that
Grill.
and the doghouse right down the street from each other. My son goes to school a block away. So I drive by those twice a day.
Well, I think you won because you only missed one, with a little bit of help. That was good. We have one more. We have one more. What's that? That's it. Okay, cool. That was it. All right. So, a lot of stuff. We dove in a lot into what it is. Obviously, there's a lot more to all these stories. But how can people find you?
Facebook, Instagram. They can reach out to you. You've got my contact.
Okay. Cool.
Again, anybody that thanks for sticking with us if they're watching. Their time, I'm always eager and available to help out. I really get joy nowadays out of helping people in this journey, giving them the confidence that many times they just need to hear in order to pull the trigger on something or go down a path that they haven't been on before, because we've all been there.
You know what's funny about that is a mutual friend of ours. You ended up doing one of their first deals with them, and you partnered up with them, and they called me and said, "Hey, Todd Kruger, do you know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know him. He's awesome." And yeah, you want to do a deal together, and he was kind of trying to vet you a little bit, right? Get a little bit of information. I was like, "Man, if Todd wants to do a deal with you, do a deal with Todd. Like, you got to do a deal with Todd." And so it's funny as you fast forward today, and we're all great friends. We just spent some time in San Diego together, and it's really cool. So, and the one thing that I appreciate about you is you are the real deal. You are exactly who you are today. You help people, you elevate people up, and I love that about you, and I appreciate you being here today, man, taking time out of your busy schedule. So
always, it's been a pleasure.
I definitely appreciate you.
I appreciate you asking me, and
yeah.
On to our next deal, right?
Yeah, thank you. So if you guys want to reach out, you want to get into the real estate game, you want to learn about real estate investing, not only can you reach out to me at any time, but you can actually reach out to Todd and any one of our past guests that have been on the show and the podcast. All amazing people doing some crazy stuff. And in this life, you're either just going to sit on the couch or you're going to ultra up. And I say, you need to ultra up. So let's go. Ultra everything. Let's go. Thanks, guys.